I wish I remembered what like triggered me or what switch flipped in my head where I was like, I really want to build mocks. And I remember spending like the last of my college money on Bricklink orders to start mock building.
Nice.
Probably sacrificed a lot of meals. I think I ate a lot of canned chili and soup so I could start building Lego mocks.
It's important to have your priorities.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it sounds like you learned a lot in college. So
I did.
hello, bricks, chicks, and minifigures. You are listening to AFOLs Welcome, where we talk about all things Lego from the perspective of two adult collectors. We're your co-host. I'm Grinch.
And I'm West.
And today we are joined by Abe, also known as Hypolite Bricks from YouTube. But before we get into the discussion on how he brings his wonderful mocks to life, West, let's banter over some bricks. How are you, my friend?
Let's do it.
Whoa. How are you, my brother? I don't want to go as far as say friend.
Oh, yeah. Is that better or worse? I don't know. I'm doing all right, Chris.
One is you got to be there. The other one's like you want to be there.
Yeah.
Wait, I'll let you decide which one.
No, I'm doing good. Has been the tradition for the last 3 years, gearing up for our move this summer. It's been a lot. It wasn't bad, and then like this week, it all just kind of crashed down in reality. One of the things I have more or less decided, interestingly enough, and on topic, is that I don't think I'm going to bring a lot of Lego with me, actually. For context, for the listeners and viewers, I'm moving internationally this time. So I get that little fun, extra little bit of neatness on top of another move. And I don't know, man. I've loved. I mean, I just picked up those F1 cars from the Speed Champion series, but I just don't know if I need to bring it with me. So I think the only things I'm going to bring with me are some of my botanicals, just because they're kind of nice around the house and they're fun. And I think I'm going to bring maybe some of those Lego Icons airplanes. I think the Concorde and the shuttle carrying aircraft. But other than that, I think I'm going to pretty much leave everything else at home. So, or here in the United States, awaiting my return. So, that was an interesting decision to make, but that is the one I've decided on. So,
makes sense. When you move internationally, you generally have to like crate stuff over. So
yeah,
you know, have 6 months and not have, so makes sense.
Not just that, but then when we're over there too, I'm sure we're gonna collect stuff. But I probably
different space. You don't know what you're gonna get into yet, right? Like
so many unknowns. So I think that's gonna be kind of the thing for the time being. So yeah. How about you, Grinch?
Well, to not sound like a broken record, I'm not going to repeat exactly what I said last week, because for the astute listener, well, viewer,
and listener,
you may not have noticed that, or actually the super astute listener, but you may or may not have noticed that or the time of day changes and the t-shirts change and paleness probably changes about halfway through last week's episode. I was already sick, like with the upper, respiratory, whatever. And about halfway through the episode, I texted West. I said, if I get up, it's because I had to go vomit. And I proceeded to start vomiting for about 14 to 18 hours, and that's how I spent the rest of my weekend. So I was cuddled up with a trash can and some liquid IV and enjoyed the Olympics, which was nice, I guess. Lost about 7 pounds. So, as they say in Devil's Wear Parada, I'm one bad cold away from my target weight. And hey. So everything I said that I was really looking forward to for this past weekend.
It's carried over to this weekend, hasn't it?
I'm still really I'm even more so looking forward to it for this weekend. So although unfortunately this past weekend it was like 65 where I'm at, and this weekend it's gonna get cold again. So may take my daughter to the zoo if it's sunny at least, and
There you go.
like 40ish, but we'll see. So, but that's exciting. We're exciting. West, do you know what else is exciting?
Some exciting Lego news. Let's do it.
Exciting Lego news.
Well, Grinch, this week we had a series of reveals. No information on collaboration, so let's just get right into it. We had the Star Wars Mandalorian and Grogu sets revealed. It was actually revealed on Friday of last week, which is after we started the recording, and so we didn't bring it up again. But it was, for our purposes, it was revealed this week. The McLaren Technic MCL 39 Technic F1 car was revealed. The Ninjago X1 Ninja Charger was revealed. Interestingly enough, Lego and their Crocs collaboration is now officially on sale at the Lego store if you are so inclined. Snoopy's Doghouse was revealed, and the Lego House I Heart Billund set was revealed. So, Grinch, of our fun reveals this week, what stands out to you?
Dude, I'm not gonna lie. When I was looking at our notes, I read it as Snoop Dogg's house reveal, and I was just like, "Wait,
I mean, that would be a pretty fun set."
What? Well, of course, I've been watching the Olympics for ever since that like meme of him doing the equestrian in the Summer Games occurred. He always kind of makes a little cameo appearance, and that was last night on the prime time. So I guess I had Snoop on the brain.
There you go.
But no, I'm excited for this next Lego house gift with purchase, set.
Yeah.
And I may or may not know somebody who's going to be able to get that bad boy for me without me having to ship it internationally, which is super exciting. And yeah, so
I'll be in the right time zone.
There you go. And I like the build. It's got like a little Legoland and then the Lego house in the middle. It's kind of like 3 builds. And then on the right, what is that on the right?
I'm not entirely sure.
I think that's the Billund Airport, if I recall, and the house, but I'm not 100% sure. Because there's kind of 3 sections, but there's multiple buildings on the right side.
Yeah.
So it's all of the Billund landmarks, and
because that's
not
all
necessarily in architecture. That's it.
The Lego house, the Legoland, and the airport.
But I am excited for it, and then the other reveals. I know you had some thoughts on the Mandalorian and the Grogu sets, so I will surrender my time to the congressman.
Yield your time.
I will yield my time to West.
Yeah, well, so we already talked about the Lego house. That looks fun. These are neat. For the listener who's maybe not aware, these are sets that you can only get if you go visit the Lego house in Billund, Denmark, or you can buy one from somebody who's gone there who is selling it on the secondhand market. But that is where they are for sale. And so I wouldn't call them ultra exclusive, but relatively exclusive. And they're generally focused around the story of Lego. So like a few years ago, they did a injection molding machine, was so ironically out of Lego. They've done with this last year's set. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Fabuland.
That was a Fabuland one. Yeah. There was one of 2 or 3 years ago where it was like different Lego.
Those the different systems.
Yeah. So it had like Technic, Duplo and everything else. So I mean, again, right? They're really designed to sort of showcase the history of Lego, not necessarily be anything super exclusive in and of itself. So those are always kind of fun. But Grinch, you mentioned the Star Wars and Mandalorian sets. I think that's kind of the big news this week. We got a whole series of those sets that were formally announced, including things like the Razor Crest Part 2, I guess is what I'm going to call it until we understand how it fits into the larger story.
Part 2.
We had a whole Brickhead line that was released. There's the X-Wing that was released, the AT-RT that was released. So, I mean, just some fun stuff. It, standard kind of Lego treatment on all of it. There was a buildable Grogu that was released, the 7th one.
Another buildable Grogu. Yeah.
Grinch, was there anything that stood out for you in this series? I mean, I don't know. We'll talk about that in a second. But was there anything that stood out for you?
I mean, we could talk about the Razor Crest and how it's so much more expensive and Lego's getting ruined. I mean, Zeb is in it, right? That's the first time we've gotten a Zeb figure since Rebels, right? Because he was not in the remake of the Ghost, because that was an Ahsoka set.
Yeah,
if I recall. So that's exciting for the people who are into that. I actually think the Razor Crest looks pretty good. They added some more color to it. And by they I mean Disney, because this is based off of the new one, right? So I like the fact that it's not just kind of gray and boring. I like the yellow is fine. Just nice to have a little bit of color there. Brickheads are brickheads. The AT-RT is kind of what it is. My overall feelings, though, is kind of just okay, because I just feel like it's always awesome when you get a few sets revealed for an upcoming movie, because you're kind of gets the brain going a little bit, right? You start to speculate, oh, what's this temple doing in Jurassic World Rebirth? Like, where are they? What's this random, what looks like a convenience store / gas station? I don't have that here. They have the hover tank stormtrooper, right? I don't know if it's got a specific name for this movie, which is exciting because that was a cool
Rogue One
piece. So it's kind of nice to see that, that mold come back at least and into circulation. The Imperial Remnant AT-RT driver, I should say, but it's that helmet piece specifically.
Yeah.
So that's good, but otherwise, just I guess Zeb is going to be in this movie, so that's just interesting.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about this line and about the upcoming movie. And this isn't a movie podcast about Star Wars movies, so I'll share that. I'm
spoiler alert.
I might, if it's on Disney, I'll probably watch it. I don't know if I'll go to the theater to go watch it. The wave is fun. Getting that Imperial AT-RT driver is a neat figure. The Mandalorian waves have had some really interesting characters in them. I'm remembering and recalling the Imperial transport from the season 2 episode where they're in the canyon, and that one was really fun because it included the Imperial like grenadier almost. He was like a mortar trooper, and he had the yellow lines down his helmet. And so that was kind of an interesting variation on the Stormtrooper. You could only get it in that set. That transport was kind of a fun transport. It was unique to that movie, or that episode rather. And could be widely applied to kind of any sort of Imperial faction you wanted to. So there's some fun stuff to be had with this series. I do think the Razor Crest, for what it's worth, looks ironically, or sort of interestingly enough, pretty similar to the original one that came out. There's a side-by-side floating around on Instagram, but the interior of it is still very much kind of a Technic frame to try to capture the angles of the the internal kind of hull compartment down there, the kind of main crew compartment. And aside from that, I mean, it's more or less the exact same thing. Maybe a little more compact than the original playset, but not a ton. I don't know. It just I think meh is a really great way to describe this line, Grinch, because we just don't really know much about the movie. There's been a few trailers that have dropped. They're not really hinting at the story too much. The season 3 of The Mandalorian, and spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't finished it, they kind of end in a house in some random planet, kind of sort of implying like, did they hang up their boots? I don't know. Maybe not. We'll see. And now there's this movie coming out. And so it's just, we don't really know where the storyline's going. So that'll be interesting to sort of see how things play out. I think Disney is still trying to retcon their way into The Force Awakens. And every time they're doing something kind of in between the Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, it feels like it's pretty much there to retcon The Force Awakens to some extent, or how we got there. So I'm sure we're going to get a little bit more of that. But I think that kind of problem with the storytelling comes across in the Lego sets, which is nothing really moves the needle because we don't really know where anything is and what the needle's referencing. So there's the X-Wing, the New Republic X-Wing. That's fine. I mean, it's not to the scale of some of the X-Wings from the prequel series or the sequel series, or the original, was it the 2018 X-Wing that we got? This is still kind of done in the smaller play scale version that we got just a few years ago, as sort of Lego's return to sort of smaller sets. So it's not the most detailed X-Wing we've received. There's some interesting new building techniques for the side of the hull, and I'm curious to see how the wing mechanism works on this one, because the old X-Wings, I think, were kind of plagued. The series I'm referring to is the one where you pressed on a piece and like moved that forward, and that's what popped the wings out. And that series was kind of plagued with some rubber bands and some mechanisms that weren't entirely hidden super well. And I'm curious how this has fixed that. But it does look like that mechanism is pretty obvious and kind of disrupts the flow of the X-Wing itself too. So I don't know. We'll see. So I guess some cool characters, but overall, yeah, meh, I think is a pretty good way to describe it.
Yeah, which is
a shame.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah. But kind of a light news week. I think we've got an exciting guest that's about to join us. So let's get him into the room here. So
let's do it.
Today's topic. Joining us today is Abe, who isn't just about building sets. He's about crafting experiences with a focus on creativity, design, and storytelling. Today's guest has carved a unique space in the Lego community. Welcome to the show, Hypolite Bricks.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Before we get started, I just have to let you know, I started watching your videos about a year ago and have infamously, to myself anyways, been more of a set collector, but you got me back into mock building. So it's a pleasure to have you on the show. So
that's awesome to hear. That's awesome to
hear. You don't know that, but I appreciate it. And so you do a lot of mocks.
I do. My movement is working to get people into mock building.
I also want to add that Grinch and I were talking about guests for this year's season. And he's like, well, what about Hypolite Bricks? And I was like, dude, I was just about to text that to you. Let's reach out to him.
That's awesome. No, I'm really excited to be here.
So, Abe, tell us a little bit, before we get into some of your mock building, how did you become an AFOL?
Yeah. Well, like I'm sure most people in the community, I loved Lego as a kid. I loved it growing up. I loved collecting sets when I was a kid, or receiving sets, as birthday gifts, Christmas gifts. I slowly started building getting into building vehicles, tanks, spaceships, things like that. And then kind of as I got into high school, I will say that was probably my dark ages era. I was a competitive soccer player, so that kind
Nice.
of took over my life. I spent most of my time and energy into soccer, so Lego kind of went on the back burner. Then I will say, I think when I got into college, social media started to pick up. So I started, following people on YouTube, Instagram, keeping up with Solid Brick Studios, Jang Bricks,
Yeah,
the
sure.
OG kind of YouTube creators really inspired me. I went to college away from home, so I didn't have access to my Lego. So I kind of had to, live vicariously through people online. And I would build a little bit when I was home from college, but, I couldn't do as much as I wanted. I think it was when I graduated in 2019 was when I kind of fully entered the Lego community. I wish I remembered what like triggered me or what switch flipped in my head where I was like, I really want to build mocks. And I remember spending like the last of my college money on Bricklink orders to start mock building.
Nice.
Probably sacrificed a lot of meals. I think I ate a lot of canned chili and soup so I could start building Lego mocks.
It's
But it was,
important to have your priorities in
yeah,
mind. So
Yes.
it sounds like you learned a lot in college. So
I did. And then, yeah, kind of my last year college, post college, that year was 2019, 2020 was the year I was like, I want to start building mocks. I loved making videos. So I was kind of experimenting with stop motion, time lapses, still trying to figure out like how I wanted to be in the Lego community. But that was kind of my first step at becoming an AFOL. And that was kind of my introduction was about 6 years ago.
And
here
do you have a favorite theme that brought you back? Or, I mean, you kind of just, we're always still curious a little bit, but what would you say your favorite theme is?
I mean, I think I loved Star Wars. I mean, it's pretty obvious. Like
What?
when you
Get
look
out.
at my social media pages, yeah, it's a lot of Star Wars right now. So I think that was definitely what got me back into it, or what kind of kept me going throughout all the years and through the dark ages was just Star Wars media. And I think it's definitely one of my favorite themes to build myself. It isn't one of my it's a weird, I have a weird relationship with it where it's my favorite Lego theme to build, but it's not my favorite Lego theme to buy actual sets. I think that would go to like Friends or City, I think are kind of the Lego sets I really like to buy, which is very
That
different from my mocks.
is an
Thematically,
awesome
yes.
response. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about Friends? Is it the color or
It is, yeah, I think the color, I mean,
the
I
drama?
will say like these past 2 years, especially, I think
Oh,
the
yeah.
Friends line has like, I don't know what new designers they have working over in Billund with those sets, but the design of the buildings and the different structures and the malls and it's just so well done. And like those are the types of mocks I like to build as well, like structures. I don't like build a lot of vehicles. So like structures, buildings, slices of cities, I love to build myself. So when I see the Friends line, I kind of see that. And it's fun for me to like experience that building wise.
You bring up a really interesting point because aside from the modulars, like the Lego City line itself, the buildings that they build are so designed to put hands into and to take apart. And usually they have, maybe a front facade that's a window and the side is, some sort of like 1x6x6 or something like that. And so there's really not a lot to them. But the Friends line, it's the point you made. there's just so much more detail and color to that. And I'm sure that has to do with sort of the strategy of designing the sets for what they intend to be a female audience. The irony, though, is that we're all sitting here going like, wow, these are some of the best sets and detailed sets that you're building at like the $100 price point. I can't get this anywhere else in Lego. I was just, as you were mentioning it, thinking about it's the new like garden set that they're coming out with this year. That's like full of those really cool pinks, and it's that like, you know, either Spanish or Mediterranean style garden, depending on how you want to take that direction. And it is such a cool set. I think that might be the first friend set I go out and buy myself, because I just think the design of that is so cool.
Yeah, they do have like such great part usage and colors in those sets, which is also why, like, if I buy a set, I'm gonna eventually take it apart. So like seeing those sets and seeing, like, it sparks a lot of inspiration for me. So it's really fun. It's impressive what they can do with that line. Probably, and yeah, they're cheaper sets too, which is also a very big bonus.
So do you have speaking of sets, do you have a favorite set?
I think my favorite set is probably right here. The UCS Slave One is just, it's the only UCS set I've ever gotten. I got it for my 21st birthday, I think, from my mom. It's, I don't know. I think it's also probably like nostalgic. Like, I don't know. It's definitely my favorite set. I think it's like so well designed. I think I just still remember my experience building it. I really liked the new Jango Fett one, but I have this one, so there's no real need for me to like get another one that's pretty similar. But that's definitely my favorite set right there, and the only one I really have displayed in my entire room.
Well, of all the sets to display, it's a great pick. So
Thank you.
And it's kind of stood the test of time too, because it's 10 years old now. They have already, what's the opposite of shrinkflation? I guess it's just inflation. They've already sent out the inflated, one that's $300 and volumetrically just a little bit bigger, right? Because the piece count, you get a little bit wider when you do that, and it still stands up, right? So it's a classic for sure.
It is, and it's still sturdy. Like, it's really well built. Like, it was kind of in a nice sweet spot where it was kind of after the period where sets were pretty fragile, but definitely, yeah, before the shrinkflation, where it was just everything is now kind of condensed, and every Lego set now feels like it's just like a solid brick where you could just throw it against a wall and it will like stay built.
We don't throw Lego sets on this channel, but but I believe
I also like your commentary about deciding to opt out, and that's something Grinch and I have been talking about now for maybe the last few episodes, as new themes have been coming out, and as the Lego Icons line has continued to expand. And I think there's so much pressure through social media, through the land, to always buy the new set. You saw a lot of people put the new Slave One next to the old Slave One to do comparisons, but your point is exactly right. Like, they're almost identical. Sure, the new ones maybe got some different techniques, neat, but at the end of the day, they're so similar. I appreciate that, because I think you're building at a scale yourself where I'm sure you pick up Lego sets fairly often, and I just think we as a community need to communicate that more, of how sometimes we just decide not to get something versus always indulging in that desire to pick something up for the sake of just opening a set. So I just wanted to applaud that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, that has definitely been something that's been on my mind. I feel like this past 2 years, and something like on my channel I've been trying to get across is like, you don't like, and it can be hard, especially again with social media and just with how great Lego's products are. Like, it can be really challenging not to want to go buy the newest thing. But I have been trying to get across my channel, like, choose to be creative over going to buy something. Like, use what you have, to be creative. Like at the end of the day, that's more important than buying the newest Lego set. Building something yourself will make you happier than buying the newest Lego set. Like I think, and especially too, again, with social media and a lot of the community is just kind of about consumerism and pushing products on people and product reviews and flashiness and, controversial opinions. And I'm trying to kind of, at least with my channel, because, there's nothing necessarily wrong with what other people are doing, but like with at least what I can control and what I put out into the Lego community, I try to keep it a space where, I don't know, you don't need every piece, you don't need every set. That's not the most important thing. I'm not going to push that on you, because most people can't afford, most Lego sets. And as someone like myself who still can't afford most Lego sets, I want people to feel heard in that department as well, and that's definitely something I'm trying to work on.
Well, one of the reasons I really appreciate you as a builder is because of you bring that same tone to your builds too. I mean, you mentioned Solid Brick Studios, and this isn't anything against him. His builds are amazing. I mean, he spends months, sometimes even years, doing these builds, and they are tables and tables and tables and tables.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just as big of a challenge to go wide and big as it is to go really small. And I think with your building style, I mean, with the mock series you're working on right now, you have a kind of a selected almost base size that you build off of, and you tell a great story and a complete story using that, right? You don't need to go super grandiose. Bigger is not always better, and it's kind of this modest but strategic building style that you have that I really like, that I think comes to life in a lot of your builds.
Oh, thank you. That's a good way to put it. Modest but strategic. That is a good way to put it. And I think, yeah, what David does is phenomenal. And I'm not telling people they shouldn't do that. If they can do that, that's great. But like the reality is most people can't do that. And more people could do what I do if they want to, like smaller scale mocks. And that's also how most people get into mock building is maybe modifying sets, or I mean that's how I got into mock building. I think I modified Peter Parker's that Infinity War Peter Parker set. Like I remember
The
specifically,
Sanctum.
and I specifically remember modifying that and making it my own mock. And I'm like, wow, that was just a very small set. And it's those types of things that are going to get people to build their own mocks, be creative. So it's important to emphasize that, smaller is also just as good. And you don't necessarily need what David has to, be creative, I guess.
Well, it's funny. Even I'm thinking back to I think I had a similar journey of like you're watching Jang Bricks and Solid Brick Studio, and it was when I fully got back into Lego. I was kind of like looking stuff up on YouTube, and I was like, wait a second, I'm already subscribed to these people. Like I watched them at some point, and I was like, oh, this was the giant Kashyyyk mock that I watched. But I think that was back when he was first starting out, and it was like, oh, week number 46 update. And he's like, hey, I just got back for the Pick-a-Brick wall. I got couple $20 tubs, so it's all I could afford this week, and let's do it. And now it's very different, right? I mean, it's giant. I'm sure he's got part of a lug or something, because I think he's building a garage. But anyways, we're here to talk about you. So where can people find your work as we're kind of starting to talk about it?
Yes. People can find my work primarily on YouTube is where I try to push people, because that's, I think, where you get the full picture of like what I do, and I get to explain it, and I think that's really fun. So YouTube channel, Hypolite Bricks on YouTube, and then also on Instagram is my other main platform where I post my pictures. Instagram is also the best platform if you want to ask me questions or reach out to me. I respond to my Instagram DMs most out of everything, and I have a lot of other social media platforms which I don't check, but YouTube and Instagram is the best.
Can confirm we reached out to you on Instagram and asked you if you want to be on the podcast. So yeah.
And it worked.
And you're here. So
Yes.
So you mentioned as you were kind of getting back into Lego, you were kind of trying to find that space that you wanted to be in. So what's Hypolite Bricks? How did that kind of come about?
Yeah. Let's see. So let's jump back to 2020. Again, I was fresh out of college. I was actually immediately out of college. I went to school out here in Minnesota. I moved out to LA, California, because I had some friends out there that went to film school and were in the film industry. And that was something outside of Lego, movies is like my next biggest nerd obsession. I love movies. I love film. I have like just so much storage in my head to random film and actor knowledge. So I kind of wanted to experiment being in the film industry. I went out there, lived with my friends. I got to work on some small indie movie sets. I got to be a part of one kind of bigger indie movie project. But I slowly realized I didn't love the film industry. Like I didn't love working in it. I didn't really love like the hierarchy. I think I had no control, and I didn't feel like being in an industry where I had to like put in years and years and years and years of work to maybe potentially get to make something creative. Like it just didn't make sense in my head. And also 2019, 2020, that was also, I think, when social media really, especially like TikTok, like influencer, really picked up. Where like I was seeing people like, I could really do something with that. I could really, people are building careers off of social media. That's like crazy to me. And again, I was in California, very unemployed. I had no job. I had my entire Lego collection. I had a lot of time on my hands. And I was like, you know what? I should start posting YouTube videos. I should, again, experiment with stop motion, different formats. Maybe I'll try reviewing sets. We'll see if that works. Rebuilding sets. I don't know. I tried a lot of different stuff. And I think that's kind of where Hypolite Bricks started. It was kind of a place where I wanted full control. I wanted to be able to like just be creative and produce the content I wanted. And I didn't really want to be told no, I guess, or I wanted to just like, I don't know, be able to do things myself because I knew how to edit. I knew how to, do certain things. And I wanted to be able to use those tools and skills that I practiced. And, I think I slowly kind of found my voice. I kind of found the things I was passionate about. My mock building skills improved. And I think slowly but surely over the years, I figured out the type of YouTube channel I wanted to build. And it's kind of how Hypolite Bricks officially started. Yeah.
I think there's two things there for me. One, sometimes you just have to start. And, I think like Michael Scott said, sometimes I start a sentence and I don't know where I'm going to go with it.
Totally.
Which is, he's saying it facetiously, it's a joke, but seriously, sometimes you just got to take one step, right? And then number two,
sure.
It's about figuring out what you want to do, right? And I think that's the next thing is doing what you want to do and finding that space where you can kind of be that creator that you want to create. So,
yeah.
And
that's what I tell people too, is like, especially people who are, trying to maybe make content or do something creative, but they don't entirely know what they want to do. I'm like, you got to just do something because you're not going to figure it out by doing nothing. Like what you like, what you're passionate about, what type of voice you want. I'm like, you got to just do something, figure out what your niche is, and you'll figure out what space you want to be in, type of thing.
The other thing that stands out to me is your willingness to just try stuff and just experience it to some extent, and without necessarily knowing that like maybe this is what, not that it isn't what you want to do, but right, like you're working on reviews for a little bit, you're working on videos, you're working on some content that's not necessarily what we see from you today, but through trial and error, you found your niche, you found your stride, you figured out what worked, what resonated with an audience, and then also what, kind of brought you passion, I would assume. And you leveraged all of that together. And, once you had a vector, you're like, I got it. That's the direction I'm headed. But it sounds like it took a couple of attempts just to kind of figure that out, which, circling back to our original conversation about just trying, with mock building, for example, just trying stuff, just go out and build, I think is a really powerful story to people. We use things like the Lego set or what we see on YouTube as a benchmark for, or social media is like, I can't necessarily do any better than that. And it's like, well, have you tried?
Yeah.
Give it a go. See what you can do. Maybe you can do better than that. Maybe the first one won't be better than that, but after a few attempts, you'll get there. So I think that's a really cool story.
Yeah. No, and if anyone sees what I do now and is like, oh, I can't do that, or I don't have the parts for that, or I'm like, just go look at my Flickr account and like look at what I was building a couple years ago. It was not as good. Like it took me a long time to, get better and hone in on the craft. I think, it takes time. It takes a lot of time.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about some of those builds.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think you've done is you've done a lot of standalone mocks, and then you've done a lot of, or not a lot of, but some mock series more recently. When you're sitting down, how do you kind of determine this is going to be a mock series? This is going to be just a totally custom, cool Cloud City thing that I create that's not necessarily canonical, but absolutely looks like it could be / kind of is at the same time. So
Yeah.
how do you make that decision?
Yeah, I think it comes down to a few different things. Some of those being like, how much time do I have? What, does my parts collection and minifigure collection, like what can I do with it? Like how much can I do with it? Story and like inspiration. So like currently I'm doing a series on Rogue One. And previously before this, I did a series on Andor, both of which are two of my favorite Star Wars projects. Andor especially, where I knew I was like, this is one of the best things I've ever seen. I want to hyperfixate on this for the next couple months and build, a Lego mock of a ton of different scenes in it. And that's how I felt about Rogue One as well, because I felt like it would be a cool, like, kind of addition to the Andor series. But I think for something like, the Cloud City mock, or I think a year ago about this time, I did like a big gray clone base where, I don't know, I felt inspired to build this big gray clone base, and I thought it would be like a fun YouTube video, but I wasn't like inspired enough to make that like a full-fledged series, and I didn't think I could tell like a good enough story throughout that series to like, I don't like to waste people's time. I like to like give them a fully fledged complete project like every video. So I don't like to draw things out if I don't have to. But for the Rogue One series, I felt very inspired, and I knew I could tell like a really, a long story throughout this series, and I could like sprinkle in just really awesome mocks, and I could, sprinkle in references to the movie and, talk about things about the movie I really like and what inspired me. And, it kind of just depends on those types of, hopefully that answered the question well.
It's actually really funny because one of the things I've always really appreciated about your content is that I would say it's like straight to the point, but I'm like, man, Abe does not waste my time. And I really appreciate that because your videos are long enough, right?
Yeah.
But they're not. And like afterwards, I'm kind of like, oh, I want a little bit more, but it's I'm never like, swiping away because I'm like, okay, yeah, I got it, whatever, yeah, I don't need the hey guys, I'm at the Lego store, so we're just gonna go pick these, and then I stopped by Raising Cane's on my way home, and like, it's about the Lego, it's about the build. Your cat joins you sometimes, that's pretty cool. Sometimes you talk about something that's there in front of you, right? It's very, again, modest and strategic, just like your build style. And it's funny that you say I don't like to waste people's time, because I absolutely notice that when I watch the videos, and I'm sure other people, if any of our listeners haven't seen your videos yet, definitely check them out, because I think they'll notice that too, especially coming from us, who's long form content, and sometimes our episodes get into the 2-hour mark. So we also try not to waste anybody's time, which with the 2-hour podcast episode can be, sometimes gets a little unchained, but.
I appreciate that's a huge compliment for me. I appreciate that, because yeah, I want it to be short and concise enough, but I still also want it to be, I don't want it to be like one of those videos where it's like jump cut right in your face. I'm being yelled at by somebody. Hey guys, welcome back. Like, we're gonna, like, I don't need the fast cut editing, like but I need it, but I like my videos to be fast, just fast enough. Like, it's got to be, there's a fine balance to it, I think. That's, a never ending challenge to adjust.
So, kind of sticking with the single mock versus the series, does the planning process look any different? There's the inspiration, but then I've noticed, especially with this go around of the Rogue One versus the Andor series that you did, you're sharing the sketch now, and I think you did a little bit of that before, if I recall, but it's a kind of a more permanent part of the build, and you're talking about the color palette a little bit. Hey, for this build, this is the color palette I'm trying to stick with. Does that process look different if it's a series versus if it's just a standalone?
I mean, I think going forward, I'll do similar things for my standalone mocks. But I think for this series especially, like, I really wanted to give people more insight into the behind the scenes, like, of the process and the build-up process. I think, like, I don't know. I wanted this series to be special, and I put a lot of effort into it, of just, the sketches and the prep. Like, it was a lot of prep. And I also, I work in marketing, and, like, I work in social media, and I've learned a lot about promotion and, being able to promote the work. And, I spent a lot of time building these mocks. And it's not that I'm trying, like, I care about getting a lot of views, but I do want people to be able to see the work that I spent a lot of time to work on. And knowing social media and working on social media, like, I know I have to post more to get my work seen. So I've definitely been more strategic with this series about, okay, I have this mock. How much content can I put out, like, about this mock that people will actually still care about? Like, I don't want to waste people's time. I don't want to spam people, but I do want to get enough out of these mocks, because it does take me a lot of time. So that's definitely a direction I'm trying to go, which is more different than what I've done in the past, where, I'm just trying to get more out of it. And I think viewers, though, will also get more out of it.
What I really like too is you use a lot of the concept art to help inform the actual build. And I can tell, you're a cinephile, because you see that in, the extra, the behind the scenes cuts of the movies, right? And they talk through, well, here's Ralph McQuarrie, and here's all the drawings he came up with that inspired the movie. And they usually show those. And so it's pretty evident that that's also kind of how your mind works and how it's inspired. But I think by showing that in the way that you do, to everything you already mentioned, it puts you in the environment. It gives you extra context too, right? Which I think for your builds is really important, but not necessary, because I think it captures it enough. But by the time you're done looking through kind of your concept section and you get to the final build, it's almost obvious, like, what you're seeing, and it's the entire environment, not just that little clip of the environment, is evident in the build. It really does feel like it extends off of the base plate that you've built everything on. And then I really like your use of I wouldn't even call it color theory per se, but the way that you show the colors at the end and then you stack it up on your kind of thumbnail image that you put at the beginning of these series. It's just so fun to look at. And like I said, it's just fun to kind of get a glimpse at like, what is he thinking as he's putting all of this together? And you're like, oh yeah, I love that image or whatever. And oh, I'm seeing that in the final build. And I, I think your whole series of sketches and pieces on their own could be, just, I mean, that could be somebody's background on their computer. I feel like it's so cool. I think it's so creative the way you lay everything out, and it's just so much fun to look at. So I just wanted to throw some kudos your way for kind of the really cool work you're putting together.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
Jeez, we're turning into the Abe hype squad over here. You should take us more places. We're just like next time you're having a bad day, just give us a call. We'll go.
We need to start a
there.
cameo for we'll just hype everybody up.
Yeah. Well, let's get a little sadder and troublesome then. We've talked. It's funny. I never quite know where these conversations are going to go, right? Because we kind of have a loose idea, but we've actually talked quite a bit about social media and being a content creator. And so much of what you don't see with content creators is the content that you don't see, right? So, has there ever been a mock that you like just could not complete, and you've not posted about it? You don't want to talk about it because you're just like, I just get this thing out of here. I'm done with it.
I actually don't think so. I think I'm too stubborn to like not like if I've put in a work into something, I'm like, I gotta finish this. I think there have definitely been times where it's like being really hard to finish a mock. I think, and it always usually is in my build series, my mock building series, where it, again, it's a lot of work. And I think I always find I feel like my wife every time I'm like, I think I'm going to start a new mock building series. I feel like my wife is always like, all right, here we go. It's going to be hard. I'm going, it's going to be good. I'm going to plan it out better this time. I learn more, the more I do it, but it always just is like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of work. But yeah, I feel like my first series, I did like a Spider-Man series a while ago. That one was probably the most where I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And I'm just kind of having existential crises of just like, but it's just not that important. And but I've finished every mock though I've ever started. I have.
Sometimes you just have to finish the mock. I just recently did Mines of Moria, and like I just had to get it done, and I got it done, and I'm like, this is exactly what I don't want, and then I just tore it apart and I just restarted. But I got it to where I wanted it, right? I mean, sometimes it's just a part of the process. So
I know, and sometimes you just need to like leave it alone and just like not touch it for a couple days and come back to it, and you'll look at it all differently. And it all makes sense.
So was that Spider-Man series your least favorite then, or because it was a while ago, right? Or
yeah, that was I think 2020. That was definitely a while ago. I mean, I'm pretty critical, I feel like, of my own work. So a lot of my stuff from like a couple years ago, I am not super like happy with, or it's hard for me to look back on things and not like nitpick it, especially when I go like 3 years back. I'm like, oh, but that's just how you learn and that's how you grow. And I'm not, most of the like creative things, it was all self-taught. Like I taught myself how to edit video. I don't really have a design background, so all that was just kind of research and a lot of just trial and error, testing things out, testing out textures, colors. So yeah, it took some time. Trying to be easy on myself now, though.
It is supposed to be a hobby, right?
Yeah.
It's all for fun.
I'm looking back at your old work and like, I think anytime people, it's more compliments. Sorry, that's the way it's gonna go tonight. But anytime people are like, well, I'm not formally trained. I'm like, well, the Wright brothers made bicycles and they invented the airplane. Like, you don't need to have an engineering degree to do that. So they were engineers. Like, I don't think anyone would dispute that. But, they didn't have a formal degree in hand saying, yeah, they're engineers, right? So like, you might not be formally trained in design, but I think you certainly have an eye for it. And the way that you do approach the color blocking and the texturing, like, I mean, it surprised me when you just said that, because I was like, no, there's no way.
I appreciate it. My wife will be happy I'm getting all these compliments.
Oh, we should start a new service, West. Just
A hype squad.
send us your builds, and we're Hype Squad. One thing I've noticed, you do focus a lot on the story, and it was funny. We've watched a lot of Lego Masters, and I used to kind of always roll my eyes a little bit when, the story, because I kind of felt like almost a throwaway, just like, we'll judge on this criteria because maybe the build's not quite where we want it to be, but as long as there's a story, we're happy, sort of thing. And but after kind of looking through some of your work and becoming a better builder myself, it really is about the story, right? Because there's 4,000 pieces, and when you want everyone to be strategic and intentional, you have to know why you've got a giant sand hand popping out of the ground, or why is that there, what's going on in the scene. You have to have people around there reacting to it to add life. So what's one way that you've kind of learned to kind of tell that story or capture that movement or that momentum or just that sort of motion within your build without actually using motion?
Yeah. That's so funny you brought up, though, the Amy and Jamie, just the story, and like the Lego Masters. It's such like a iconic line of you gotta have this. It's
Where's
so
the
fun.
story? Yep. I'm not seeing the story.
I know.
Well, there's this guy and there's this guy. No.
It is so true, though, because it's like, especially, for my work, where like most people will just see a picture of it like on Instagram. So it's like, how am I going to get across emotion, story, movement in one picture? But a lot of artwork I'm like a big fan of is like slice of life, like just a slice of like a cityscape or like a street where it's just, one shot of a street, but it like evokes so much emotion and story. And I really like, that's kind of the vibe I try to bring to my mocks, especially my most recent Jetta mock, where it truly just looks like, a slice of Jetta.
Mhm.
I think ways I try to add movement and story and action, I will say, it's kind of hard to explain, but I think the best way to explain it is like visually. Like if I built a coffee shop and it was plain and there was nothing, there was no, I think to add action to like a coffee shop, maybe add some smoke to the smokestack coming out. That's like movement and action right there. Maybe there's a minifigure sweeping trash outside of the coffee shop. Like, that's detail, a little bit of texture. There's story there. Who is that guy? He's cleaning up trash. Add some more accessories to the counter of the coffee shop. Someone's ordering, maybe someone spilt their coffee, like things like that. That's how I think about my mocks, especially my Star Wars mocks. I think minifigures are so important. Customizing your minifigures, and it's all really important, I think, to get story across. And I think lastly too, just like texture and color, like playing around with textures can really help, I think, set the scene. And yeah, that's a tough question though to answer, but it's a good question. I don't know. It's hard to explain, I think, sometimes.
All right, Hype Squad. Well, you answered it great. No, you did. And I think one thing too with your most recent series, you've done that ground to texture throughout, right? And it kind of adds this cohesion from each mock to the other, but it also kind of gives you this reminder that this place is alive, right? And
Mhm.
it's can be just that subtle of, hey, there's earth here, and there's
Yeah.
different types of earth here. And so what inspired that texture? I know you talked about it in the video, but
What inspired the landscaping texture? I think I was inspired by another Star Wars collab, which I'm not remembering the name of, but they did a similar technique that I was like, that's really awesome. And I've seen people do kind of variations of that technique.
Mhm.
Um, but I kind of wanted to make it my own a little bit. And, I love the style of, where it's like studs and then you have tiles kind of around it where it almost looks like the tiles are being peeled back, revealing the studs. I love just the way that looks and the texture it gives and the vibe it gives and the layers it gives the mock is really, really awesome.
Yeah, certainly. And then with something like the Yavin mock that you did, it also allows you to just get another level of color in there, right? Because I think you have the dark gray ground, but then you've got the brown kind of dirt under that. And otherwise you wouldn't have had that, and it would have been a lot more kind of that true neutral color palette, but this allowed it to be a little bit more earthy as well.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it gives it like, I mean, we've already talked about it, but just this sense of lived in feeling. And what's cool about that is, I mean, in sort of again a full circle moment here, that was one of the big things that made Star Wars appealing from the start and made it stand out. Was you see the Millennium Falcon for the first time, and there's these grease stains all over the walls, and it's banged up, and it looks like somebody's old space minivan that you're hopping into. And that was kind of the big thing that set Star Wars apart from like Star Trek and some of the other sci-fi of the 70s and 80s. And it's been sort of a continuity in Star Wars since then of that lived in feeling. And I think that translates really nicely into your work, seeing just the patchwork. And these are techniques we've seen people use in like Lego cities and stuff. So, and even Lego themselves. I'm thinking back to the T-Rex Rampage diorama that Lego made, and you see the T-Rex footprint in the mud, and it's almost the exact same technique where they're using tiles and plates and stacked on top of each other to create both depth, but then they're changing the color of them to make it, just add that extra layer of detail that, again, right, like your imagination fills in the rest. And I think that's a really important feature of what you're doing, especially when you're limiting yourself to the size, because it allows us, like I said, to just sort of imagine the rest of the city continuing on around it. Like you said, it's a slice of life, right? But at the same time, too, I can totally see everything that's going on the peripheries and outside of the slice of life that you've depicted.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I think you kind of relating it to those older Star Wars movies where there is just like a level of like grittiness and like you can almost feel like the leather, like the stained
Hmm.
leather in the Millennium Falcon of just like, oh, like I understand that. Like I can feel that. I can see that. I can smell that. Yeah. That's definitely something I get inspired by in my mocks. And this might sound crazy, but sometimes there are like pictures of my mocks where like it's almost like I want to take a bite out of it. I don't know if you guys understand what I'm talking about, where if you like see like an object or like a texture and you're like, ah, that like looks like I don't know, looks like a piece of cake or I don't know. It's a crazy thing to say, but
Don't start. Actually, wait a second. Perfect idea.
Wait, are we doing
You
a
know,
Lego? Is it cake?
yes, yes. Is it Lego? Is it cake?
yeah, it's something like that where it's just the texture of I don't know there's something
Yeah.
to it.
So, okay, that brings up a really interesting question though. If we were to peel back a layer of bricks, I'm looking at your Jetamoc as an example. If we were to get inside the tower on the right, or your white tower kind of in the center of your image, would we see a bunch of bricks in all sorts of colors? Are you one of those builders, or do you kind of keep the color consistent throughout? I just,
No,
out of
the
curiosity.
backsides of my mocks are outrageous looking. Not
That's
not
awesome.
clean at all. A lot of random colors, especially for this series where I really tried not to buy any new parts. Like I tried to use what I had. And I still have all the mocks built right now. Like I built everything. So I had to like dip into lots of filler brick, lots of just random Technic brick, anything to fill the space. The only thing I didn't use was Duplo.
I like that because I think it gives people it's a reminder to sort of be forgiving, to give themselves a little grace when they're building, right? Like it doesn't need to be perfect. And Lego kind of does that too on purpose to help differentiate the colors of the build, to make it easier for little eyes and younger builders. You know, they don't need to make everything monochrome black. That's just kind of hard to see the details in it. So they vary the colors a little bit as you're building to help you, see the pieces. And if it's hidden, who cares, right? So I appreciate kind of you continuing that theme too, because I think, again, all too often we get ourselves kind of stuck, and it's like, no, it's got to be perfect throughout, and the reality is maybe it doesn't.
So, what do you think then, or what do you look for in a build that kind of separates it from being good to great? Is it cake?
I think the builds, I like a lot of Lego mocks, and what I absorb most in the Lego community is just other people's Lego mocks. That's like the content that I kind of am drawn to. I really like, I think a lot of it goes down to, I think, those like design elements kind of we've been talking about, like how is the texture? Did this builder use the right amount of it? Like, because, it's possible to add too much texture and too much detail to a mock, So I think, did they get the right amount of texture? What type of colors did they use? Did they use good colors together? And, maybe did they use some nice shades of colors? I think that's really important to me. Minifigure placement, I think, is very important. What did they put time and effort into their minifigures and their minifigure placement, or did they kind of just throw them all on there at the end? I really love just quality. Like minifigures are one of my favorite aspects of Lego. So when people like really put time and energy into custom minifigs, I think that's really fun in mocks. I don't know. I think that's kind of it. Just people who have the right amount of texture and details. I also really like when people have, building Lego terrain and landscape is like really, really difficult and really tedious. So when I see people who build like really nice, detailed, like smooth terrain and landscaping shapes, I think that's really awesome. And I think that's like, because, I know how hard that is to do. And so when I see other people do that, I'm like, that was a really great Lego mock.
One thing that landscaping is just so hard, right? Trying to make something plastic feel natural can be just incredibly difficult, right?
Yeah.
One thing I've noticed in some of your builds is you'll place a lot of foliage, but literally just place it versus have it attached or connected to something. Do you use that technique a lot, or is it just in a few circumstances? I think it's your Jedi Fallen Order one where you used it quite a bit.
Oh, yeah. I think it depends. I think usually I try to make sure things are connected properly, just because I don't know. There's something, I don't know. I feel like in the Lego community, especially like the mock building community, there's a lot of like unspoken rules about like what you can and cannot do. even though like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter and you can build what you want. But I feel like just in my brain though, there are still things where I'm like, I don't know. And I feel like not having all the pieces connected to the build is always on the back of my mind, where I definitely do place things and I'm like, I'm going to just take a picture of it so it doesn't really matter. But like, I do try to attach things mostly for foliage though, to make it as dense as I like it to be in some mocks. Like I think in my Edu mock I just did. No, it wasn't Edu.
The Lamu mock.
Lamu mock. Like all those little carrot stem pieces, like half of them aren't connected to anything. They're just like placed in, and some of them are held in by friction. But again, if I like turned that mock over, like a ton of them would fall out. But like for the sake of that mock, I'm like, you know what? It's worth it for, the design I'm going for. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's a unspoken rule was kind of the word I was looking for there, because yeah, definitely it does feel like there's a lot you can do with mocks, right? You can I don't want to say cheat, but you can kind of use different things to kind of make the bricks work a little bit easier for you.
Yeah. Especially if I'm not showcasing my mocks anywhere. I mean, you can kind of bend the rules a little bit. I like bending the rules, the phrase, better than cheating. Cheating,
Okay.
But bending the
There you
rules
go.
for photography. But it also saves me on parts and saves me on money. So perfectly fine.
And sanity,
Yeah.
just
Oh yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Has you've mentioned photographing your builds. We've talked about kind of making your videos. Has documenting your builds as you've done, has that changed the way that you've built over time?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think, like a lot of people and how I started mock building, I didn't think about it too much, which was fun. Like it's fun to just sit down and build with Lego and not think about it, not think about the outcome, not think about having to make a YouTube video of this. And, I still like to do that. Sometimes now I'll just start and tinker on my desk and, I still like to build Lego sets. I'm not anti-buying Lego sets. But I think when I started, I mean, for years, my wife was like kind of in my period of time where I didn't exactly know how I wanted to, the type of creator I wanted to be in the community. My wife was constantly like, Abe, you gotta record yourself building your mocks. Like, I feel like people want to know how you do, build these things. You should showcase the process. And I always was like, I don't, it's too time consuming. I don't know if I could do that. And once I started doing that though, I think my mocks significantly improved. And I think I really was able to find my style because it forces me to sit with my mocks a lot longer. I, will take a video of building something and then I am forced to pause and stop building for a second and really think about the decisions I'm making, the colors I'm using, what details I want to go where. It causes me to start sketching before I'm building. So I have a more general idea. It's really helped me just hone in on my craft and just hone in on just the truly, I guess, just like Lego craft and just like the bricks and what you can do with them. And it's all the different ways you can use a certain brick. And I don't know, it just forced me to sit and be patient and think over my decisions. And it really helped, I think, improve my mocks a lot, which is fun to see over time, I think.
Yeah, you're kind of sitting in the process a little more.
Yeah.
Yeah, and be a little more structured and methodical, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's not always easy, but it's fun.
Well,
the outcome is worth
Abe,
it, I think.
We've certainly enjoyed having you on and talking about your mocks. I've got one more question for you. We're gonna end on a fun one. So moment of truth here. You said you're a big Star Wars fan, so I was curious. it sounds like you and West have a very similar taste in Star Wars IP preferences. So would love to know how you would rank the 9 movies plus Rogue One in order from worst to best.
Worst to best. Oh, that's
Worst to best. Okay. I have some of these. I have a list in my. I don't know if you guys use Letterboxd, but it's a fun app.
mm-hmm.
Track of your movies.
I've heard but not dabbled.
Let's see. Star Wars. Worst to best. Okay. I will say I like all aspects of Star Wars, so I want to preface that. The only thing I absolutely don't like is The Rise of Skywalker, so that is the lowest on my list.
Fair.
I really don't like it. I also want to preface my list is constantly changing. Above The Rise of Skywalker as the worst, I think it would be Solo, the Han Solo movie, and then The Last Jedi, Attack of the Clones, Force Awakens, A Phantom Menace, A New Hope, Return of the Jedi, Rogue One, Revenge of the Sith, and then The Empire Strikes Back. Revenge of the Sith might be first. I haven't seen the old ones in kind of like a couple years, and also Andor though is my all-time favorite. But I was just focusing on movies here. But Andor is my number one of everything.
Great selection. No notes.
I would applaud the back half of the list. The front half, we got a little bit of work to do, but that's okay. It's your list. It's your list.
The back half is almost easier. I feel like the front half, they're all so different. Like the older movies they're so different, and it's all like dependent on what mood I'm in. Like, am I in the mood for science fiction politics or like more like 70s action? I don't know. It's complicated. It's so hard.
I mean, the Clone Wars 2 was visually a really fun movie, but the pacing on that one is just all over the place. And it's like the movie doesn't know what it wants to be. Is it like a noir with a crime scene element? You know, like are they trying? Is it like a detective movie? Because Obi-Wan's playing Detective Obi-Wan for half the movie. Is it a romance? Is it a drama on the galactic stage? Well, it's Star Wars Episode 2, The Clone Wars. It's all of that, or Attack of the Clones. So I don't necessarily disagree with ranking it as low as it is. As much fun as it was. Grinch and I saw that in theaters. I guess that's crazy to brag about that these days, but I'm sure you did too. I was probably
old enough, but I didn't actually even get into Star Wars until I was like 10. So I didn't get to see Revenge of the Sith or Attack of the Clones in theaters. My first Star Wars experience was The Force Awakens, which is probably why it's higher on my list, just because of nostalgia and just being able to experience that. I mean,
geez, Abe, we hyped you up all night, and now you're making me feel old.
I was a late fan. Yeah,
we saw Phantom Menace in theaters.
We did see Phantom Menace.
I liked it. I mean, I was like, 7? I liked it. It was fun. But who's the protagonist in a Phantom Menace?
Qui-Gon? I think.
Okay.
I think so.
West?
It's
not Anakin. I mean, Anakin's introduced like an hour into that movie. Yeah, Obi-Wan is not in half of it.
Be Qui-Gon, I guess. He is the main protagonist.
He doesn't have any character development or character arc. Is the
no. It's tough too, because a lot of my Star Wars rankings, I don't know. Some of the movies are just so much more rewatchable than others too, even if they're not necessarily like better, but like they are more rewatchable, which is why the list can just get so skewed.
I've learned to just rank them on, am I having fun watching this?
Yeah,
There you
that's
go.
kind of how I feel about a lot of things in my life,
Yeah.
especially media related. Is just, did I enjoy my time watching this? Yes, 5 out of 5 stars.
That was here for entertainment, and I was entertained. So
Yeah,
call
I
me a
didn't
prequel stan.
I didn't hate it. Made me laugh. Made me feel. If it makes me feel any sort of emotion, I think that's good.
So if I'm picking up anything, the next series announcement, spoiler alert, is gonna be on the Clone Wars. One mock for every episode of Clone Wars. You heard it here first,
gosh.
folks.
I think someone is
I
doing
mean,
that. Actually,
Oh, really?
if I think someone is doing that, I could not do that. That would be so much. But someone is doing that. I swear, I saw it.
if you're comfortable discussing it, what is potentially on the back burner or next
Yeah.
up?
Wes, this wasn't on the questions that I sent him. Come on, bro.
Well, we're having a fun time.
Tomorrow's Friday. I'm ready. Next on the docket, I would say I'm really into, obviously the Mandalorian and Grogu movie comes out in May. So I don't really know what that movie is about, I guess.
I don't
But,
think anybody does, including the
and-
creators.
yeah, I don't think they haven't marketed it at all, which is weird. But that movie is coming out. So as like a content creator on YouTube, I'm like, okay, maybe I'll make, a mock from Mandalorian season 2. I did just buy like the Cod Vanth, I think I bought his speeder set. So I think the minifigures and that set are cool. So I thought it would be cool to build like whatever that Tatooine dragon is, the mythosaur, maybe? I don't know. I might build a mock of that, that's kind of an idea to help to kind of go with the movie launching, but one that has nothing to do with marketing and maybe getting more clicks. I've been getting into fantasy a lot more recently. I've been rewatching Game of Thrones. I just watched the new Game of Thrones show that just came out, which is, I think, is really good.
Oh, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms.
Yep. So I really enjoyed my time watching that. I've been reading the Harry Potters for the first time. I've obviously seen the movies, but I've never read the books. I'm reading the books. So I've kind of been in a fantasy magic mood, and I kind of want to build like a big castle mock or something. Kind of in the style of the Lion Knight's castle, but kind of more detailed, more of a mock versus a set. So it's been on my notes app for like 3 years to build something like that. So kind of want to do that.
Well,
Nice. A pivot away from Star Wars.
Yes. Yeah. I do want to pivot. I want to try new things.
As somebody who's exclusively been building Lord of the Rings, I support your endeavor into the fantasy realm. So
yeah, I think that's something Lego needs to do more of as well, in my opinion.
Officially, not just Bricklink Designer Program, like get retail sets so that you get the pieces out there.
Yeah, I want like battle packs of every faction. I want like
full,
for
Lord of the Rings
or for
Castle.
just like Castle, Lego Castle.
Okay.
Like the Black Falcon and the whatever.
You can get them on Pick a Brick on their website.
I did see that, yeah, recently. I'm kind of late to the game, but
I got because I have Lion's Night Castle, so I got like I think 5 Black Falcons and 5 Lion Knights. Get a couple crossbows for 2 of them, swords, etc. So I could set them up just out front of my Lion's Knight and just added a lot to the display.
yeah, I want more of that from Lego. I don't want to have to jump through hoops though to get that type of thing. I want it easily accessible. But I probably will 100% be
Like I said, it's Friday tomorrow, and so
yeah.
Well, Abe, thank you so much for joining us. For the listeners, please check out Hypolite Bricks. We will have it linked in the description of this episode, as we always do. And Abe, any final parting thought before we close out the episode today?
I think just stay creative. Remember why you got into the hobby, and keep on building though. And thanks for having
Awesome.
me, obviously.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for joining us today. Brick mail. All right, Abe, thank you so much again for joining us. We really appreciate it. You taking the time to get on the show and talk through your builds, your mocks with us, your process, and how you're kind of representing yourself in the Lego space as a positive influence on what it means to be a Lego builder. So thank you again, West. Why don't you take us away on our first and only brick mail for this episode?
Yeah. So our brick mail comes from Alex, who writes, "Hi guys, I just wanted to send you a quick message to say how much I've enjoyed the podcast. Back in January, I started at episode 1 of AFOLs Welcome, and I'm now at episode 46. It's been a great ride so far. I'm currently pretty busy with my work as a teacher, but listening to the podcast while driving to work or walking the dog has honestly been my way of still getting my regular dose of Lego while juggling everything else. I especially love the episode about modular buildings. That's my favorite theme by far. There's just something about the scale, the detail, and the display value that keeps pulling me in. I'm also a big fan of alternative brands, partly for financial reasons, let's be honest. If you haven't already, I'd really recommend trying a set from Lumi Bricks or Fantasy sometime. From Lumi Bricks, the record store is one of my absolute favorites. The build experience and detailing are fantastic. Maybe let's just not talk too much about the minifigs. They're still a bit unique. Anyway, keep up the great work. It's genuinely fun to follow along from the beginning and hear the conversations evolve over time. All the best, Alex."
All right, Alex, thank you for taking the time to write in. I'm glad that you're enjoying the show, and what a journey. It started episode 1 in January. Doesn't say January 1st, so Alex is churning out what is potentially an episode a day, 1.1 episodes a day at this point, being middle of February. So kudos to you. And I'd be curious to know kind of how you integrate Lego with your teaching. So glad that we can be a part of your day though, and on your walks with your dogs and drive home. So Wes, do you want to comment on the alternative brands, which I guess is a nicer way than me saying fake Lego?
Well, I mean, I just, Alex, first off, again, we really appreciate you writing in and sharing how you've, interacted with the podcast, and we appreciate that, and it's fun to hear people say that, yeah, I'm listening to this because you have so many different things you can listen to, and so it's just neat to hear that. Anyways, I actually kind of wanted to double down on Grinch's question, which was, do you integrate Lego at all in your teaching? Obviously, there's some kind of obvious ways that could be done depending on the subject, but if it's, a subject like English or something, for that, example, I'd still be interested. And then, anyways, curious to hear how you might do that if that was something you wanted to pursue. But anyways, Grinch, you said, you wanted to chat on the alternate brand stuff. Alex, I'm really glad you're enjoying your time brick building.
No, we do get it, and you're actually not the first person to recommend us try one of the sets. Wes so graciously volunteered to. We've been AFOLs for a while and grew up with Lego, and we've been ingrained into the cult of purist, I would say.
Yeah.
I've dabbled in more of the custom world when it comes to like unique minifigure weapons, that sort of thing, versus whole other brands of bricks. But understand, got to do what you got to do. And I think as long as you're finding that same joy from Lego or Funhole or what's it called, Fancy now, right? Or Lumi Bricks, then hey, more power to you.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's the important thing. And the experience is still very similar. So I think that however it is that you experience that is like Grinch said, kind of the important thing. And I'm staring at it right now. I have a alternative brand myself. This is an Amazon alternative brand. So who knows how to pronounce that name, as most Amazon alternative brands these days, have the weird alphabet soup of a brand name to them. But I still plan on fully disassembling it and rebuilding it with the instructions and everything, just to share my thoughts on how that process goes. So stay tuned for that update.
And that is a wrap of another episode of AFOLs Welcome. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you are listening to this show. If you would like to write the podcast, please email us at afolswelcome@gmail.com or follow us on Instagram. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you on the next one.
See ya.